What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd Podcast, the 2026 MLB Draft recap. We have got all of the picks in for the New York Mets this year. The draft was a little interesting. They didn't have many picks at the start, but apparently they got their guys. We're going to tell you our thoughts, opinions, and everything that we know about them in today's episode. If you're enjoying it, make sure you are subscribed to Mets'd over on YouTube. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. James, we got to start with the first round pick that people were caring way too much about, getting up in arms about it because he only threw 14 college innings. Let's talk about Carson Wiggins, right-handed pitcher out of Arkansas.
I think that's why it is fair to get relatively up in arms, because you took a player in Carson Wiggins who was a sophomore, so someone that instantly kind of has leverage in the draft, because very easy to go back for your junior year, play another year of SEC ball, especially when you have the stuff of Carson Wiggins. When he was on the mound as a freshman, there are people who are in the college baseball world who thought he could have had some of the best raw stuff in the country. There are people at the University of Arkansas, you guys can hear from in a second, that thought if he came back and pitched a full season in Arkansas next year, he could have easily worked his way into being a top 5 pick, but kind of got stuck in no man's land recovering from injury, and then came back, pitching the combine, didn't have his best stuff, but when he was healthy, it's probably an 80 grade fastball. He's hit 102 miles an hour, average 19 inches of vert. Like it's a really, really, really outrageously good fastball.
Yeah, it's possibly one of the best fastballs in the class, especially if he was fully healthy. So coming back, rehabbing, doing what he has in college, I think we also have to make it very well known that rehabbing at a college university is very different than rehabbing in a major league organization. So that's something that's even interesting, that he was able to still get up to like the upper 90s with the college rehab work. And then that slider and the curveball are both really good. The slider is a legit wipeout pitch.
Oh, the slider looks like it also could be like flash 70, 80 grade pitch. I also think this situation is an interesting microcosm for a big debate going on right now with the CBA of offloading development to the colleges and not letting players go from high school to the league, because Carson Wiggins seemed like had a bit of a run-in with the Arkansas brass and the coaches, where his head coach, I want to get the name right here, seemed like a weird vibe during the season. It was loathing. Dave Van Horn, great SEC coach name.
Keith's father?
Possibly Keith's father, from May 4th of this past year. So on the road to Omaha right there, on Carson Wiggins. He's 100% healthy, but as of right now, they're not going to let him pitch. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not real happy about it.
Which just brings up the conversation that will be a bigger one that we have about why college development offloading is definitely not the right move for baseball if you actually care about player development, which we know that they don't, that this is all to actually offload costs, because if you make players go to college, they have to go into the minors, and then they become major leaguers at an older age, which means they don't get the Juan Soto mega contracts.
No, of course. And that's why it's a weird thing here, because even when Wiggins apparently was fully healthy, when he went to the combine, the draft combine a month later, he didn't have the same stuff that he showed as a freshman. He was only sitting low 90s. The slider didn't have the same movement, the same velocity. It did feel like it was a very weird player to evaluate because of that. Because of that, Baseball Prospectus didn't even have him on their board, because they were like, this is a very difficult player to evaluate. He'd say he was healthy. We'll know if he's healthy. He didn't look healthy. But then we also know, we've heard that there were other teams towards the back of the first round that were very keen on Carson Wiggins. And when you're a Mets team that had the third or second lowest bonus pool in the whole thing, you didn't have a second round pick because you forfeited for Bo Bichette. At some point, you probably have to take a swing. This is probably your only chance to get something relatively safe, which I think was a main criticism of this pick, because this is not safe at all. But I mean, if you're going to take a swing, I guess get an 80 grade fastball and take the swing.
Yeah, I also think, too, like we saw him at the combine, so I am a little bit surprised that Prospectus didn't know where to rank him, just because
he was like 8 miles an hour off his average. No, he was like 4 miles an hour off his average from the year before.
Yeah, but we could still see stuff. And the fact that I feel like all the other places were ranking him, too. I feel like we shouldn't necessarily just see 14 innings at the college. We know what the stuff can be. We know what the stuff has been. We know that the Mets have done well with pitching development. I know this is a big conversation to that Jonah Tong's a bust and that the Mets haven't done anything recently, but the Mets have done well with pitching development. The other big thing that we have to talk about with this pick, too, along with the fact that he's Jackson Wiggins' brother, Mets, Freddie Peralta to the Cubs, Jackson Wiggins to the Mets. It's happening. But the Mets didn't have another pick until pick number 92. And Carson Wiggins was a guy that, at least from the, I don't want to say mocks because you're not seeing mocks, but from the relative idea of where he could fall in the draft, people thought that it was going to be inside the top 90, or then he wasn't going to be drafted and he was going to go back to school. So for the Mets, they didn't have another opportunity to really go get a guy that it seems like they very much wanted. And I like some people are going to hate the process. I like the process here. I don't like going safe in the draft. I like going for the home run. And it does feel like while there's a huge range of outcomes here with Carson Wiggins, one of the top ones is that you could find a guy who's got an unbelievable fastball slider combo.
And I think not yet, but we're going to talk about the rest of this class and how I think these first 2 picks of Wiggins and Robbins set the Mets up to maybe take fewer risks later on, take more close to ready products, take guys who maybe didn't have as high of ceilings, but at least had generally good floors. But again, the risk on Wiggins is something crazy happens. It also felt like the Mets did a lot of pre-work with Wiggins. Of course, you'd expect that from a team's first round pick, but he already signed. Like he's ready to go. A player that, again, once he went in the first round, he was getting near his slot, which just kind of makes the whole draft more confusing anyway. Probably knew he was signing anyway, but nice to see you lock that up so soon with a player who, again, unbelievably wide range of outcomes.
Couple guys recently have been taken in the first few rounds by the Mets, the Braves, other teams that haven't thrown that many innings. I wouldn't worry about the innings. If there's anything to be worried about, it is the injury. But you're going to hear more now from our friend Andrew Ellis, who covers the Arkansas Razorbacks. We're going to cut him in real quick. He's going to tell you a little bit about Carson Wiggins.
What's going on? Andrew Ellis here, host of the Baumbastic Podcast, the #1 podcast for Arkansas Razorback baseball. So while I may not be able to tell you much about the rest of the Mets draft class, can definitely speak pretty confidently on the 3 former Razorbacks who are set to join the Mets organization, and Carson Wiggins, Kuhio, Aloy, and Cooper Dosset. We'll start with Wiggins, of course. He's kind of the big one, the headliner here. I guess you could call it one of the bigger surprises of the draft. Now, we had been kind of hearing over here in Fayetteville that he had a very high asking price as a draft-eligible sophomore. Arkansas was hoping to get him back for a junior season, and I will say the Arkansas coaching staff was of the belief that he had pitched a full season in the SEC next year. He would be a guy that would have a chance to go in the top 5 to 10 overall picks. Now, that's their take on the situation, probably a little bit optimistic, but it kind of tells you what type of talent you're looking at here. Freak athlete. He was a really good high school basketball player, has a vertical leap of over 40 inches. I remember touring the Arkansas facilities, the weight room a few years ago, and they had it on the board, all the highest broad jump, the highest shuttle time, the highest vertical leap. Wiggins was in the top 2 or 3 of all of them at 6'6", so it kind of tells you what kind of athletic specimen you're talking about here. Only 14 college innings. We only got to see him close some games as a freshman, gets hurt about halfway through the year, has surgery, does not pitch at all this past season, which was very much a polarizing, controversial thing throughout this season. It was kind of a whole, will he pitch for Arkansas? Will he not? Is he going to try and hold out for the draft? Could they maybe get him for next year? Obviously, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but many people in Fayetteville were hoping to get to see that evolved version of Carson Wiggins because they feel like if he had pitched his junior year at Arkansas, this would be one of the top 2 or 3 college pitchers taken in next year's draft. So while it does, I'm sure some fans are probably surprised why the Mets drafted a guy at 27 overall who had projections a lot later. A lot of those projections took into account his signability. So in terms of talent, I don't think this is a reach by any stretch of the imagination. I also imagine he's going to wind up signing for below that 3.5 slot value there. But a really special talent. His brother Jackson is in the Cubs organization right now. He was a second-round pick a few years ago, a little bit older than Carson. He's in AAA right now. One of the top 100 prospects in all of baseball who's on a very nice trajectory. Now, they're not the same exact pitcher, but you can kind of get a glimpse into what that future might look like. And by all accounts, all the scouts and people who would know feel like Carson is the better prospect, the more polished overall pitcher compared to his brother Jackson, who is a little bit more of a fastball-dependent thrower more so than a pitcher. Seems like Carson is a little bit more ahead in his development. I will see how he looks coming off injury, but make no mistake, the upside is absolutely there. If you want to use him out of the bullpen, he could probably be pitching in big league games in the next 1 or 2 years, but I think him as a starter, as a frontline ace is very possible and something that I'd imagine the Mets would want to explore.
So the next pick the Mets made, like we told you before, all the way pick 92 because of Baumbastic. Aiden Robbins, outfielder from Texas. 2 things funny about Robbins. One is that there were a lot of mocks where he was mocked to the Mets at 27, which is kind of funny. So it seems like there was a lot of communication with him beforehand, too. 2, he's from Bucks County, PA. He went to Seton Hall for 2 years. He's like a relatively local kid, which is kind of a funny wrinkle with this.
Yeah, shout out our friend Mike of Stark Raving Sports. He wanted Aiden Robbins in the first round so badly. Got him in the 3rd round. Best of both worlds for Mike. There's obviously some concerns with Robbins, which is why he dropped to the 3rd round. There's a lot of swing and miss, and something that we saw in the draft this year more than ever in the MLB draft, swing and miss was punishing people. Jacob Lombard fell in the draft because of the swing and miss concerns, and a lot of contact-first good athletes were taken higher with the idea that you could develop into that power. We'll decide whether or not that's the right way to go about it. There is no doubt that Aiden Robbins has power. I think he hit the most home runs in the Cape Cod League, in the SEC this year.
Highest average, I believe, too, in the Cape Cod League.
Yeah, like he can hit. He does swing and miss. There might be issues with adjusting to the breaking balls at the pro level, but he can hit, and he is a good athlete. He's probably going to be a corner outfielder, though, which is another reason why he'd fall.
Yes, a right-handed corner outfielder, which means you have a lot of hurdles to overcome to be a first division regular, 50 future value player, especially because if you watch Aiden Robbins swing, a lot of the prognosticators have gone through this. It's an incredibly unorthodox movement in the box. Big leg kick, he kind of leans back, and then you kind of just like scoops under the ball consistently. It's the kind of thing that, again, led itself to significantly higher whiff rate once he went from the Big East to the SEC. And that likely will only get higher as now he transitions from the SEC to pro ball. And it's something that, for him likely to actually become an everyday player at the major league level, it will be on the Mets to fully reworking his swing, allow him to keep his power and improve his contact rate, because he was a guy who had one of the highest barrel rates in the entire country. Shout out Nash. Nash Talks Texas, a Twitter account who's posting a lot of Texas. Bengal follows him, posts a lot of Texas. A lot of Texas advanced data, and showed that Robbins had in the SEC. I think these are all for the SEC because that's all the SEC people care about.
Probably.
96 percentile barrel rate, 90th percentile, 90th percentile average exit velocity, 90th percentile average exit velocity, like 99th percentile expected WOBA. But the high strikeout rate and one of the lowest whiff rates, in-zone whiff rates, out-of-zone whiff rates, poor chase rate, that's kind of a mess. But when you think about a third-round pick, like, you're not getting a fully complete, finished, amazing product either.
Many people have this problem. I want to eat healthy. I have the willpower. I don't have the time and the organization. I need help. What do you do?
I mean, you go to Factor. I got two boys that are looking for the gains, and they always come in the house looking for food. Now they have actual healthy food that is great for them. And you know what? It's ready in the fridge for them to pop in and make it right away.
And they have meals built around your goals. It could be weight loss, overall nutrition, gains, more protein, fresh, never frozen, over 100 rotating weekly meals, including globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian. I get all kinds of different salads from Factor that I love. Quick, easy. They can be ready in 2 minutes. Head to factormeals.com/FOUL50 off and use code FOUL50OFF to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with new subscription only while supplies last until 9/27/2026.
No, and the Mets over the last few years in their second, third, fourth round, they've gotten guys that haven't been complete products, and the minor league system has turned them out into very good major league players. Nolan McLean, AJ Ewing, just to name a few. So let's see what happens with Aiden Robbins. Again, I like the stuff that's there, which is hit ball hard, hit ball in the air, take a big swing. Like, those are all things that I like. Now we start to talk about some of the more interesting picks. Keeping it in the state of Texas, left-handed pitcher Shane Sadow. Is that how we pronounce his last name?
I believe so. I thought it was Sado. I'll try and get a pronunciation for you. We filibuster here.
Yeah, but from Texas A&M, another guy whose ERA was high in college, but what do we not care about, especially in college baseball, James?
ERA.
Yeah, Brian Wu, what was his ERA at Cal Poly? Like 6. Like, who cares? Yes, doesn't matter. Sadeo. Okay, so Shane Sadeo. He's being comped to Zach Thornton right now, which is kind of funny. I think he's got a little more juice, though, on the fastball than Thornton.
He doesn't have the juice yet. He's the kind of thing with Thornton. Eric Loganhagen from Fangraphs made this comparison where the Mets saw a lefty with tremendous command, and you think if you can get 2 or 3 more miles per hour out of him, you get a guy who's a good mid-rotation starter. And
I thought he topped out at 97.
I think he did, but top doesn't matter. He was a sit
Top
90.
matters.
He was a sit 90, 91 to 93 guy. That's kind of what it is. Top maybe matters if you're going to wind up in the bullpen. And I think a theme for a lot of these Mets pitchers were, again, guys who you kind of have to squint to see their potential in the rotation in the future. But with wide eyes, you can see all of them being tremendous relievers. And a lot of people have lamented the fact that Mets still can't develop relievers. So, hey, maybe that happens. But again, the hope is here that he does a Thornton thing where he maintains great command as a lefty and develops more velocity to become a more regular starting pitcher. But even low 90s, that fastball has a really nice shape. It comes from a low slot. A lot of the scouts, Tyler Jennings from Just Baseball was saying this a lot, he comes from a wacky angle. It's a kind of a low slot relief, and he has a big extension with a weird horizontal release point.
Sean Manaea,
Zach Thornton. So it's not fully sidearm, though. He's much more higher angle, release angle than Sean Manaea. But some cool videos from behind home plate, again, from Tyler Jennings, showed that he also really hides the ball super well. Like, he comes around and the ball doesn't come from back here until the last second, so it's very difficult to pick up. He also has a cutter, which is funny, very similar to Thor, and he also has a low 80 sweeper. So again, if you can add 2 more ticks to all of these pitches, I do think you have a big time pitcher. He also had elbow surgery after 24. He missed all of 25, if I remember correctly too. So not a lot of mileage on that arm either, which is a big trend also for a lot of the pitchers in this Mets class.
Well, round 5, we went with another SEC guy. SEC. I think we went SEC for the first
Across
5
the board.
picks. I mean, a lot of SEC. It's the best conference in college
6
baseball.
picks. Oh, yeah. 6 rounds, 5 picks.
Luke McNeely coming in next, relief pitcher out of the University of Florida. Wow, where have I heard that before? A right-handed relief pitcher out of the University of Florida drafted by the Mets?
The thing that's crazy is that he also looks just like Christian Scott in
Exactly.
his, like, exactly the way that he is as a prospect. He's a relief pitcher, again, from Florida, converting them back to a starter. Classic high spin, fastball from a low slot, athletic delivery, bit of a smaller slider guy compared to these other dudes we drafted. I have more sizes on the guys later on. We drafted hosses,
Huge dudes.
hosses across the board. But I think that McNeely seems like he has a feel for spin. They're going to just give him a sweeper and try and do the exact Christian Scott playbook.
Why not? I'm interested. Let's do it. Let's see it. He's got a pretty good fastball, too. So, like, those are things we talk about all the time. You got to have a good fastball if you're going to be a successful pitcher at the major league level, especially nowadays. He's got a pretty good one.
And I think the Mets did have this mindset that we have to maybe draft a little bit more power just to get some more power pitchers in the system. And again, if they think they can coax velocity, and they've done that successfully with prospects over the years, you kind of see teams find their way into the grooves that they've succeeded with, whether it be the Christian Scott model of here's a spin efficient guy with a good fastball shape, Will Watson, let's get sweepers on them.
How about something as simple as like the Chicago White Sox, any big lefty that's a starting pitcher, it seems like they're super interested in because Chris Sale works so well for them. Like they went and got Noah Schultz. They got Hagen Smith. They had Garrett Crochet. Big lefty, we're going to take a look at you.
Yeah, I think you're going to see later on the board. The Mets did this too with really big righties that had fastballs that had really high slots, so they didn't wind up having the best shape, kind of like Jack Wenninger, but with good command. They're going to just teach them a billion pitches. I think that's something that we're going to see as we keep moving down. But McNeely's definitely one of the big guys to watch, and Sadao seems to me like the best floor pick they made in this whole thing.
Interesting. All right. Next, round 6, Alex Petrovic. You were talking about the Wenninger type guys, right-hand pitcher out of Auburn. He's a low 90s command guy, threw a ton of strikes, throws pretty straight. This is the Jack Wenninger pick if I've ever seen one.
Oh, 100%. Really felt like that. And I want to shout out Sam Jones from the UK Kentucky Analytics intern. He gave a great deep, dense player profile with data on Petrovic, which told amazing. Had it all. Great guy.
It's awesome, but
incredible. So again, shout out Sam Jones, but big command guy with really nice strikeout minus walk rate. Fastball has not that good of a shape in the low 90s. Hard slider. Some people have called it a cutter. I think Sam did as well, but I saw some of the scouts calling it a slider. Big sweeper, but again, 6'5", 240, and a ridiculous changeup. That's the pitch that's going to set him apart. So again, similar hope. Let's see, or a splitter, possibly changeup. Let's see if we can give this guy any kind of spin, more fastball variations, and if he can get out lefties, he could probably find a way to be a major league starter, hopefully at some point, especially when you're that big.
All the old heads that are tired of chasing velo and not throwing strikes, not worrying about command and control, Alex Petrovic is your guy.
Right, that's the one. He also has a stress fracture, I think his elbow last year.
Oh.
So he only had 29 innings first 2 years.
That's
in Auburn.
Man, just think about fracturing your elbow.
Yeah, it's horrible. We just kept taking guys that don't have a lot of miles on them. But again, Petrovic feels like really, really Wenninger-ish.
Which, I mean, we'll take it. I know he's struggled a little bit this year, but development's not linear, especially for pitchers. All right, round 7, pick 210. Aiden Keenan, right-handed pitcher out of Stanford. Didn't really, another guy who didn't have a lot of great numbers out in college out for Stanford, but he's probably going to be a reliever. The exciting thing is, sits 96 pretty consistently and has a sweeper that misses bats.
Yeah, I want to shout it again. A lot of shout outs to this one. Asked a lot of the Mets'd community here for help on this, people with nice college data, draft knowledge. Mike Didino, friend of the pod, did the draft guide for Baseball Prospectus. He had Keenan as a guy circled beforehand as an interesting mid-ish late round pick. Another guy who just was bad in college.
Yes.
High walk rate, high ERA, mostly as a reliever, but flashed, especially like in those shorter stints and at the combine with a 96, 97 mile an hour fastball that has a legit shape on it. He raised the arm slot a little bit while he was in school, still kind of kept that plus ride with it relative to the arm slot. He's also a guy that dramatically changed his delivery from freshman year to when he got drafted. He was like a long arm all the way back release guy by the end of it. Now he's a short arm action, slightly higher slot. So very different there. Big time sweeper that misses bats, just doesn't know where it's going. But he kind of has this changeup that looks like it's not really an efficient pitch at all. Like it's in the low 90s, doesn't kill a lot of vert. So I do think at some point we do show him a kick change or a split change or something like that just to add to his repertoire. But another big dude, I think he was like 6'3", but a little bit skinnier. I want to say he was like 6'3", 190. It just seems like the Mets are going for these power pitchers who, if worst case scenario, they could be major league relievers like in 2 years.
Yeah. Round 8, we go with another, just absolute unit of a dude. Landon Koenig out of Ole Miss, right-hand pitcher. 6'6", 250 pounds. Get ready for this, guys. Ready? 96, 98 out of the pen.
Yeah.
Absolute shed. It's also cool because he's from a town that's got like 2,000 people in North Dakota, which that's some ball knowledge right there. Shout out the Koenig family. Something that I want to talk about just briefly is the Mets going so hard, especially early on, at these big school guys that kind of were in these secondary ancillary roles, not necessarily the big guys on their campus. A lot of the times, again, we talked about with player development, it's not a focus at college. So these guys get put into roles because there are so many other good players. I am fascinated to see what these kind of backrooms guys can do now that people will actually focus on their development.
It definitely is a big bet on what the Mets can do internally. So, and I think they should be kind of cocky about the way they've developed McLean, Sproat, Scott, Wenninger over the last 3-4 years as they've gotten this new player development staff in place.
I know Tong's struggling, but still, he was a nothing prospect. He became a top 50 guy at one point. So,
flash even higher than that. But that's kind of what this is. And if you asked a lot of these same outlets, draft prognosticators, about what they thought of some of those guys coming out of the draft, they would have also said, don't see it, probably a high leverage reliever at the next level. So the Mets need to take shots. The Mets need to add depth to their minor league system. When we thought the depth was really good last year and all those minor league teams were cruising, they all fucking suck this year.
So bad.
It is nice to just, again, get these guys. They're not like, none of these guys are anything close to finished products by any means, but like Koenig, 6'6", 250, sits 97 miles an hour. Also looked like a guy from watching video on him, similar to what you said about not really much player development at college. Seems like, with my eyes, not an optimized delivery. Not using his legs, not a big follow-through, not very athletic in his lower body. I would love to see him develop as a starting pitcher, head to the weight room, get on a really good Mets-led nutrition plan, and just see, because not a good fastball shape. Get me to 99 with the empty shape there, and then also he had a nasty split, good at killing spin on that pitch. So again, looks like a high leverage reliever, worst case scenario.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, let's get into the guy that we have the least amount. This could be catcher out of Cal Poly, Ryan Taman. Here's what I've seen. Another big dude takes a big swing. He's going to have major swing and miss problems. That's what I've seen from people around the baseball world, that the power output is exciting. The swing and miss is scary. He plays okay catcher.
It seemed like the Mets had a bit of an interest to add to the catching depth in their system.
Wonder why.
It seems like we've had a couple of swings and misses on catchers the last few years, whether it be draft, international, trades. I think one of the international prospects is actually one of the ones playing well. Is it Raul Hernandez is still at the Cyclones? He was a trade. It's Giovanni something, I want to say. Giovanni Rodriguez.
Yes, I always want to call him Gallardo.
Oh, he's 19 years old. He's still in the complex, but catcher, that's actually okay. He's not doing that bad down there. All right, we'll take that. But that's still a long way away. You take a guy in college. This is kind of also the part of the draft where you have to squint to try and find interesting things.
Yeah, we're not going to have too much on all these guys going forward.
Except the Arkansas guys, because Andrew, right? Andrew
Ellis.
Andrew Ellis came because we drafted 3 Arkansas guys. He's an expert in Arkansas ball. But the next pick is someone that I think is going to be my late round pick, who I hope does something cool. Nate Eisler from Dartmouth. Kind of sometimes hard to find Ivy League ball, but we did find a really nice Ivy League pitcher last year, and he was the centerpiece of the trade for, I want to say, he was with Acuna for Robert, I think.
What was his name?
I can't remember his name, though.
You're right. I almost thought that he was Ellisalt for a second, but that wasn't him.
No, Ellisalt was Cardinals. I think he got hurt, but he's still one who looks like
I'll find
stuff.
Him.
Yeah, I'll find that right now. But
Frank something?
That was Frank Ellisalt.
Okay.
But you guys won't believe this. 6'6", 240. He's someone that, and it's kind of a theme with some of these guys the Mets have drafted, Sadow's like this. He's regarded as a pitcher more so than a thrower.
Truman Pauly,
that was a big-time fastball shape, but Eisler has a plus fastball shape, sits in the low 90s, but really good extension from a low 90s velo, and also from this huge dude. I want to shout out Joe Doyle, Overslot Baseball. He put out a great write-up scouting report on Eisler. Has a gyro slide that's his go-to secondary, and a curveball that can get as high as get to the low 70s in high 70s in velocity. A changeup that he mixes in once in a while. Apparently, this is something that Doyle pointed out, that he's really, really good spinning the ball, and he's really good at getting downward action on those breakers from a really high release height, good extension from this big dude. Makes it a fun play off of that fastball and that diving gyro ball. I almost got him confused in my head because I read a great article about Andrew Alvarez on Fangraphs today about how Alvarez throws a curveball and gyro slider at like the same exact velo.
Tumbly.
But the curve has like 7 more inches of depth on it. So I got those guys confused in my head. My bad on that. It's been a long day. But again, just drafting big dudes who look like they know how to pitch, and you're going to try and Wenninger them.
There's something to squeeze out of them a little bit, which is good. You're not drafting like guys where it's like, he's going to top out 92. He'll never be able to get bigger or faster because of his size. I like it. Round 11. This is my favorite late round pick. That's not going to be the catcher that I don't know if we sign or not. But Kuhio Aloy, pick number 330, round 11, outfielder out of Arkansas. His brother is Wahiwa. I think is how we pronounce it. Yeah. Who went to Tennessee?
I don't remember where
was
he went
Arkansas
to college.
too?
I think he was Arkansas, and he was drafted by the Orioles.
Yes, but he was a first-round pick last year. Here's what we've got on Aloy. Doesn't have a lot of production, has had some injury stuff going on, but when we've seen him hit, he has a batted ball that went 470 feet in the air, and he hit it 117 miles an hour. He takes a violent swing. I love it.
This part of the draft, yeah, you might as well just shoot for something like that. And
we'll let Andrew take more of this.
Yep.
Kuhio Aloy is a personal favorite of mine because I feel like watching him hit, it's so relatable. You know, this is a guy who does not get cheated in the box. He's swinging for the fences. He's swinging to do damage. There's a lot of swing and miss. He will absolutely swing and miss at a slider in the other batter's box if you give him a chance. But if you make a mistake over the heart of the plate, Kuhio Aloy is doing damage with it. His brother, by the way, is in the Orioles organization. Golden Spikes Award winner, was a first-round draft pick. Definitely not, Kuhio is not on that level as an overall player. His brother plays shortstop. Is a little bit more of a well-rounded overall player. But Kuhio, in my opinion, has better raw power than his brother, which is saying a lot because, again, his brother was a first-round pick. Kuhio's got a lot of power, and his exit velocities reflect that. Doesn't always make consistent contact, and he has a little bit of a trouble lifting the baseball. A lot of his line drive or his highest exit velocities are line drives or ground balls. So that's probably something I would imagine a professional organization would want to maybe clean up a little bit with him, get him to lift the ball a little bit more. Of course, you also want him to recognize spin a little bit better, cut down on the swing and miss, maybe walk a little bit more. But this is a guy that is a lot of fun to watch, really athletic swing. Was also a former pitcher. When he entered college, he was going to BYU, where he spent his freshman season. He was going to college as a pitcher. And then quickly they realized, wait a minute, you've got a lot more upside with the bat. So he switched over, has had a little bit of trouble finding a position. Arkansas played him at first base a little bit when he first got to campus. He spent a little bit of time in right field. That was a little bit of an adventure. If he can somehow stick in the outfield, the throwing arm is well above average. So that would definitely help him. I think for his future, if he's going to play in the big leagues, he probably needs to find a position, and that probably needs to be in the outfield. That's a little bit of a work in progress, but a fun player there in Kuhio Aloy.
All right, thanks, Andrew. We're just going to be back for one more, don't you guys worry. AJ Crodell up next, right-handed pitcher out of UC Santa Barbara, and pick number 12. He's an interesting guy where I think I read something where he might not even possibly sign because I think he's a little bit younger.
Let's check.
And he's someone who they expect velo to jump, which means that he's going to throw harder because right now he's a low velo guy, but all the underlying stuff makes you think that there's a lot more in there.
Okay. He's again, 6'4", 200 pounds. Yeah, only 21 years old, just turned 21 from Santa Barbara. It's the Gauchos, right?
They could be the Gauchos.
I think that's the Gauchos. He's already been on campus 3 years. So I guess
then maybe it's not him. Maybe I'm mixing him up with somebody else.
Yeah, maybe it was that guy Koenig, or maybe it was the Stanford guy Keenan.
I don't know. But
those
I
guys
did
have
see
had,
something about basically how he has crazy spin, has a great looking fastball. There's just no velo behind it whatsoever right now.
Maybe Petrovic?
I don't know. I have no idea who I mixed him up with.
But yeah, he's a low velo guy with another one, good extension, walked everybody. Gonna just see what you could do there. But I think the next pick the Mets made, round 13, 390, is probably the most interesting pick that they made after those first 4 or 5. And it's Jacob Madrid, high school catcher from Notre Dame High School, California. School has produced a lot of pros.
Big time.
He looks like he's the one that, while the Mets spent a ton of their bonus pool on the first 2 guys who were both high-risk picks, Madrid seems like a guy that they circled as someone they really, really, really wanted late. And hopefully, it seems like they organized the bonus pool in the way where they're going to retain him.
Yeah, I hope they do. A lot of times when you take a pick here, it is a little bit more risky. But like you said, if we're going to save money on these other spots, which it seems like the Mets did, maybe that's all.
I don't think they did. I think they were straight up by the end of it. I think that Robbins gets like a second round pay. I'm saying the middle rounds. I don't think they went overslot anybody. They just got a bunch of college SEC dudes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they saved money.
Yeah, save money, but we're just kind of playing it very straight up more than saving money.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of these guys don't have any leverage.
You think?
We just saw a first round pick signed with the Braves for $3 million under slot, who was a consensus top 10 player in the draft.
I think to us he was consensus top 10, but he's looked like probably more top 15 talent. I think these players instantly have much more leverage with NIL now.
The NIL's not that much. We've had this conversation before.
Most
Most guys are
not
not getting that much. The top guys are. They have the leverage.
A few hundred G's.
For the top guys, yeah. Not for Zach Crotchfeld.
I mean, maybe there's a lot of
Nate Eisler out of Dartmouth.
Well,
Sorry,
no, not
Nate.
for him. But I'm talking about like these SEC guys who probably have decisions to make, even as juniors, which usually doesn't happen. But
I don't think relievers are getting NIL money that they care.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. But also the team loses a lot of leverage because you just don't want to lose these picks.
Of course. Jacob Madrid, though,
Yeah.
I do think a lot of the money that they're going to be saving on these other picks when it eventually comes out is going to go hopefully towards him. We don't have any confirmation whether or not he is leaning towards signing or not. I don't think the Mets would have taken him here if they didn't think they had a shot at drafting him or signing him. The big thing here is big tools, strong kid, good catcher, has a cannon of an arm, really good behind the plate. There's development there that can come and grow. And truthfully, if people didn't think that they would have to pay so much over slot for where they draft him, he's probably picked well inside the top 6 rounds.
Yes. And again, maybe just because he hasn't hit much. And again, we're talking about a high school kid here. That's what the scouts have said. It's more of a defense first profile. Some teams probably don't want to take that over slot risk and try to burn a bunch of money on that. He's committed to Oregon. So again, that's a good baseball team, but not like the biggest baseball powerhouse. So I think you could probably pry him away. Also from his high school, Hunter Green and Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh, Notre Dame High School is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
I think they have the number 1 high school basketball player going to college next year who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, most likely.
Really? He was also pitching as recently as last season, hitting 90 on the gun. And 6'4", 215. Like, yeah, sign me up.
Talented kid. Sign me up. Let's do it. All right. All these next picks are going to be a little bit fast, a little bit quick. Round 14, Zach Crotchfeld, craziest name ever.
Pick 420.
Wow, Crotchfeld at 420. I love it. Give me the jersey. Hang it in Syracuse. But yeah, Zach Crotchfeld from Troy, left-handed pitcher. You have anything on him? I saw. Seems like he's an okay fastball.
Seems like okay fastball, especially from the left side, could play up. The one guy who caught my eye from this group down here was Dustin Hagens, the next pick from Missouri St. Louis. He has a hoppy fastball where if they could coax velocity out of it, it looks like, again, he's a guy that profiles hopefully being a quality reliever in the big leagues one day. And then
Gavin Guidry at pick 480 out of LSU, right-handed pitcher.
Yep, and not super interesting from what I dragged there. And then Cooper Dosset here, a pitcher from Arkansas. And we got a little word from Andrew again.
Just going to let him take it.
In terms of Cooper Dosset, similar story to Wiggins in terms of you haven't seen much out of his college career. had Tommy John surgery at the tail end of the 2024 season, which had him out for the entirety of the 2025 season. And in this past year, he threw about 15 innings for Arkansas. Numbers weren't great, had some ups and downs. The command in his year back from Tommy John was just not really there, but he did see an increase in velocity, threw as high as 99 miles an hour behind closed doors at Arkansas. He was more 95 to 97 in games for the most part. The stuff is very much electric. He's got a big swing and miss slider as well, so it's not just, like he's dependent on this fastball, but definitely more of a, no doubt about it, relief option. Like, there's no question about whether or not you're not going to try to turn this guy into a starter. This is very much a high leverage reliever or bust. And when you're a guy that throws 98 with a legitimate, swing and miss secondary pitch there, it's not like you're going to need to completely reinvent the wheel to get this guy to be effective. So as a 17th round pick, he's another one that I was kind of hoping would secretly sneak on through the draft, and Arkansas could have him as a senior with an older guy with some experience and velocity. But I think it's probably best for him to go ahead and start his pro career. Wishing for the best for all these guys. But yeah, I think Wiggins is definitely one that going to be polarizing, going to be, some mixed opinions on this for sure. But at least for me and most people in the state of Arkansas, and definitely those connected to the program at Arkansas, they feel like this kid's a freak, and they feel like his ceiling is, as high as any pitcher in this draft class. So we'll see how his pro career plays out. But that's kind of my report on the 3 Arkansas Razorbacks who were taken by the Mets. You guys have a good one.
And then round 18, pick 540, Marcus Ward, outfielder out of Kings Ridge Christian High School. What do you got on him, James?
Big-time athlete, another high school guy they're going to try to sign. But the Mets are actually going to apparently offer him a contract to be a pitcher.
Oh, interesting. So there's a good chance that he doesn't sign then.
Yes, very good chance he doesn't sign. I think the Mets tried this also last year very similarly with this exact idea with a high school kid, late round, real twitchy, but then they didn't sign him.
Round 19, John Smith III, outfielder out of UCF. And then round 20, Cooper Schulte, shortstop out of the University of Iowa. The reason we don't have much on these guys, if they make it to AA, it's a major win. It's huge. It's great for the organization. We'll find out more as we go.
Yeah, and I think that as some of these guys get into pro ball, we're going to try and pay attention to more of the draft, the guys the Mets signed that weren't drafted, because again, with one of the lowest bonus pools in all of baseball, they have to be more creative on the edges, and that happens because we go over the third level luxury tax, and we signed the player for the qualifying offer. So the Mets were every single year they go into this draft at a major disadvantage. It makes their strategy the thing that I think is interesting to track, and it felt like this Mets team took big swings that I think are high risk, and in the Robbins case, seemingly medium reward early, and then they tried to get makeup guys, size guys, SEC guys who are like, hopefully within 2 years, you're at least in our bullpen.
Can't wait for 2031 when Jackson and Carson Wiggins are in the Mets rotation. Opening day, can't wait.
I can't believe that we had 2 Aidens in the first six picks of this draft, and we've taken 2 Carsons in the first round 3 years.
Spelled differently, too.
Yeah, 2 differently spelled Aidens.
Man, we have taken Carsons. What is going on?
Yes. Special shout out to some people I talked to, bounce some draft stuff off with for this. I should mention Mike Dedune, Baseball Prospectus, longtime friend of the podcast, Isaac Groffman, who's now
legend.
I think lead analytics with Coastal Carolina. They had some high draft picks.
South Carolina didn't yank him when we grabbed everybody else there. Damn it.
No, Coastal, baby. He's rolling with Coastal. He's got to get that degree. But yeah, so shout out those guys to help with that. And shout out Andrew for helping us. Shout out Joe Doyle, Tyler Jennings, and my guy over here, Sam Jones.
Shout out Lance Brozdowski. He was the one who was hyping up Wiggins on the draft. I love to see it.
I mean, Lance is a stuff guy above all else. We're going to try to have Lance on soon, talk about the state of the Mets minor league pitching development, because he did say before the season, the Mets are #1 pitching development team still. So we're going to hang our hats on that.
And that's all we got for you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching our MLB Draft recap for the Mets this season. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can be miserable watching all the Mets the rest of the season, just like we are. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a ring, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on social media at
James Shiano.
And I'm Draft Nick Mark. We'll catch you guys maybe in a day or two. Probably talk about some other random Mets stuff. We'll see you then. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Go Mets.